There's nothing wrong with Ohio State not having the quarterback competition settled at the end of spring practice.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, it's tax day. I know a lot of y'all, when you hear tax day is finally here, you're rushing, you're trying to finalize everything so the IRS doesn't come after you. And a lot of you want Ohio State to rush into settling the quarterback competition. Don't rush. Let the process work itself out. Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Monday edition of Locked On Buckeyes here on Monday, April 15th in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps fund the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. The spring game was fun. 80,000 people flocked to Columbus, Ohio, inside the shoe to watch players like Caleb Downs, Denzel Burke, Jeremiah Smith, and others do their thing at the end of spring practice in 2024. Fox, the first ever nationally televised spring game, they were there. Joel Klatt on the field, running back and forth. Jeannie Taft on the sideline doing what she does oh so well. You got Urban, you got Jason Benetti, you got Brady Quinn up in the booth. It was a great day inside the shoe. One thing that we noticed inside the shoe that we all was hoping would be done at this point in time was there really is no definitive quarterback that is head and shoulders above everybody else that people can say, even if Day is not publicly announcing who's going to be QB1 at this point in time, their play on the field shows us they deserve to be QB1. There is nothing that I have seen in a very small sample size that tells me, or that tells you, because many of you have a small sample size as well, that Devin Brown or Will Howard should be QB1 in Columbus. And there's nothing wrong with that. Those were the top two guys, have been all spring long. You got Will Howard, you got Devin Brown, you got Lincoln Kienholz, you got Julian Sand, and you got Aaron Nolan. That is the order of the quarterbacks over the weekend. So many people, even myself, were saying, like, has Sand already jumped Lincoln Kienholz on the depth chart? No, not currently. No, that's not the case. But what we saw over the weekend was really good quarterback play at times, but there were a lot of interceptions thrown as well. One thing that I noticed from this unit is that even though they are good players, they are still dealing with going up against a really good secondary too. So that is going to factor into how they're being evaluated, how they're playing, all of those things. I do think the defense right now is at a step or two or three above the offense, which isn't a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. It's not a bad thing at all. However, you want the offense throughout the summer to improve, beginning of fall camp to improve, so that no matter what, everybody knows, hey, these are the guys that are going to be up there, that are going to be right there for Ohio State. So by the numbers for the quarterbacks, for people that are taking account at home, Devin Brown, 5 for 7, 66 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Will Howard, 9 for 13, 77 passing yards, 1 sack. Did not, the interceptions on the stat sheet that I see, neither Will Howard or Devin Brown threw an interception. Had to look to a different portion of the stat sheet to look at the interceptions that were thrown. The other quarterbacks by the numbers, Julian Sand, 10 for 17, 85 passing yards, 1 interception. Lincoln Kienholz, 10 for 17, 71 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Then Aaron Nolan, 5 for 7, 47 passing yards, and 1 interception. And then Chad Ray, a walk-on quarterback, 1 for 2, 11 passing yards, did not throw an INT. Those are the numbers. But my eyes told me, even with the wind, that I don't think people should not say, oh, it was windy inside the shoe, which it was. I was there. My wife was there. I just saw people on the Instagram and on the Twitter that were there as well. They all felt the wind. They all felt the breeze I was going through. The wind itself, yes, it's going to be a factor on that day, and that did play into the fact of some of the defensive backs getting some interceptions, breaking some passes up. Adjust. I mean, the standard is the standard, and it's not going to change. You must adjust. Now, we're not saying northwestern wind in 2022. We're not saying that. That was some abnormal wind, miles per hour. That was even a weird day because my wife and I, we were dating at the time. I was going to go to I was going to go to her father's house, my now father-in-law. We had to go there to watch the game because, well, the weather was so off that we didn't have the internet at the time to watch the game. So yes, that game was being played in Illinois, where I currently lived at the time was in Indiana, and we were in Kokomo, Indiana to be exact, and we had to go somewhere else. And we all remember that watched that game. That weather was a little bit different. The weather was odd. That weather was not normal. So the wind that day in Illinois, the wind was not that in the shoe. So yes, there was some wind. But as Ryan Day and Chip Kelly and other offensive coaches will tell the quarterbacks that were out there, hey, figure it out. Figure it out. If you have to change how you're throwing the ball because of the wind, do it. Just do it. This is the Nike commercial, but we're just saying, just do it. Figure it out. And what it comes right now, Devin Brown was the only quarterback that threw a passing touchdown. Okay, I do think that is something that goes into account. Will Howard was the first quarterback on the field. I think there's something to that as well, as Devin Brown has been the leader in the clubhouse throughout a lot of spring practice. All of a sudden, on spring day, on national television, on Big Fox, who is out there the first quarterback? It's Will Howard. So I do think that is something there. We're going to talk about something later on that I do think is a big factor into who is currently the front runners in the quarterback room based off some things that are going on outside of Columbus, award promotions and stuff like that. Can't get too deep into it. But I do know this. They made some good throws, made some bad throws. Only one quarterback out of the 6, I believe, that played, they threw a touchdown. So that's cool. Threw some interceptions. That's going to happen. But nobody, absolutely nobody, has stepped away and said, hey, I am the guy. And think about what we have coming up right in front of us. You got some summer months. This is where Devin Brown last year got healthy after getting injured. So you're going to rest your body. You're going to get physically fit and ready for the football season, physically fit and ready for fall camp. Those are things that are going to happen over the next few months. Also, what's going to happen is you need to do something internally in yourself, if you can, to take the jump and to be ahead of the other quarterbacks in the room to be named QB1. You must, if you are Will Howard or Devin Brown, Lincoln Kienholz, or Julian said, I don't think Aaron Nolan can win that job this year, and I have no problem saying that right now. It's not because of the way that he played over the weekend. I just think, hey, you're a true freshman, and right now you kind of at times look like a true freshman. Julian saying does too. Not saying he's exempt from this conversation. He does too. There's a lot of things to learn from a practice. Players throwing interceptions in practice is it's going to happen. You don't want to throw them, but it's going to happen. So people are saying, hey, he threw 2 picks, that was Kienholz, or he threw 1 pick, that was Sand, or he threw 1 pick, that was Aaron Nolan. Okay, when you're going up against guys that are ahead of schedule, and they're ahead of schedule, and they're ahead of your schedule, buddy, it's going to happen. Even if you're going up against the third stringers, you make a really, really poor read and poor throw, what can happen? An INT. So there's a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to adjust to when it comes to spring practice, but Ryan Day has time. The one thing I would caution, though, is going into the regular season once again with 2 quarterbacks. I don't think it's wise, and part of me believes Chip Kelly doesn't want that either. What Chip Kelly does want is for the Buckeyes secondary to continue playing like I did over the weekend. We'll dive into what we saw from BIA next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the right tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other LinkedIn job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Once again, post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. It's Locked On's NFL Mock Draft Live on April 17th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on the YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Find the Ultimate 6-episode series on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time to hear, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from Locked On college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL mock draft on April 17th at 7 Eastern Time, streaming live on Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on the YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. One thing that I know when I was watching the spring game is that it's offense versus defense. The final score to me does not matter, does not count. It's had the offense winning, but when you had a young man, I believe last name Griffin, have a pick six at the end, when you only give the defense a 3 points for an INT, not the 6 points for the pick six, because the referees blew the whistle early, maybe to protect the player, whatever it is. Cool, that's fine. He still went untouched to the end zone. Touchdown. That boy scored. Defense wins. And when I think about that, and think about what we just talked about earlier about the quarterback situation where it's not settled and it's not really a problem with that, I am perfectly fine with what we got from the Buckeyes defense over the weekend. There's a lot of depth that we saw, a lot of young players that made some really good plays, a lot of guys out there that were getting some run for the very first time inside the shoe, and we're going to talk more about that later. But what we will talk about right now is this. Even without Lathan Ransom, the secondary made sure you ain't want to beat us deep. And even some shots to the end zone, they're going to be a whole lot harder than you expect. So I do think that right now with the defense and the team that Jim knows has put together on the defense and the offense right now that Ryan Day and Chip Kelly have put together, Ryan Day for the defense, too, don't get me wrong, but I do think, though, defense is ahead of the offense. And I do think when Ransom's healthy, going back on the field, you got Downs, you got Hancock, you got Igwin, you got Burke. As good as that secondary was a year ago, it has the opportunity to be better in the upcoming season. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say they will be. That's a big jump. They didn't really, what they have, less than 5. At one point, going into the Rutgers game, they had 0 plays of over 40 yards. And then in that game, they gave up their first on a 4th and short play. It was a fumble Ruski call. And I'm like, whoa, y'all pulled that trick out the bag? Yes, they did. Why? Because the Fighting Greg Schianos wanted to find a way to come back and win that game. Didn't happen. But they wanted to try to find a way to make that thing happen. One thing I know about the secondary, we know about the depth. Jahad Carter's hurt. There's other guys out there that are hurt as well. Unfortunately, I saw Court Williams out there hurt again, and I'm like, man, one thing after another. They have not declared him as a player that needs to medically retire, but if that hasn't happened, he must have a nagging injury once again that's keeping him off the field, and I really hate it for him. I really do. But hey, this secondary. And the secondary can't do their job without the guys up front doing their job very, very well. The defensive line got pressure all day long. There were numerous guys, 6 guys to be exact, that got sacks on the day. Edric Houston got a sack. He also had 6 tackles as well. Mitchell Melton got a sack. Good to see him out there in the shoe. Jack Sawyer had a sack. Hero Canoe had a sack. Jason Moore had a sack, and Caden Curry had a sack. What are we saying about these guys? About versatility and guys that I said at the very, very end. Caden Curry, versatile, got a sack. Jason Moore, versatile, got a sack. Hero Canoe, a young guy, was stepping up in a big way. Mitchell Melton, versatile and on the field in the shoe for the first time in a long time. Hey, we're doing some good things. We can't simply praise the secondary without also praising the guys up front that are getting pressure on the quarterback. Not only that, there's a question in my mind, and I've been asking myself this question for a very, very, very long time. And this is me assuming that what we all believe is Dallin Hayden enters a portal and does not come back to Ohio State, that he goes elsewhere to play the football, which, hey, one, I don't blame him. I've been on here saying this for a very, very, very long time. I would not be shocked if numerous Buckeyes right now, if the over-under is set at 6.5, I'm going over Why? There's too much talent on this team that will not play for players that are older to sit around and stay in Columbus where they can go somewhere else and play. Now, some players may want to say, hey, I want to stay in Columbus. That's great. But there's too much talent, older talent that ain't going to see the field where you're like, hey, man, should I stay or should I go? I don't know. Mitchell Melton being one of them. Very talented young man. Been hit by the injury bug, which is unfortunate. But would it shock me if he went off to the portal? Absolutely not. Now, I'm not here to say, like, he needs to go or he needs to stay. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying it wouldn't shock me at all if Mitchell Melton went to the portal and said, hey, I'm healthy. My role in this team is not as big as I would like for it to be. I'm going to go elsewhere. So be it. I don't care. Jaden Ballard, Kojo Amwee. If some of these receivers want to leave, hey, I'm not going to wish you harm. I don't want you to get hurt. Go have success. Unless you go to that team up north, then we're going to have another conversation here on the show. If you want to hear one about another Ohio State fan that's been a fan longer than me, about how he feels about potential players transferring to that team in Ann Arbor, go back and check a recent episode with my guy Jeff Hunt here on the show. We talk about that in the very first segment of that show. But hey, man, praising the secondary is great. Praising the D-line is great. I think the Buckeyes have the talent on the RB in the running back room that if they decide to stick with what they got, they'll be fine. I don't think Ohio State needs to go to the portal to replace Dallin Hayden. I don't. But if they decide to, it wouldn't shock me either. I think with the way that Ohio State recruits and the way that Coach Locke, we're going to call him around here, I believe that's what he wants to be called, as Coach Carlos Locklin is his name, we're going to call him Coach Locke. I think they'll be fine with James Peoples. I'm normally not fine with a true freshman running back being RB3 when you know you're going to use 3 running backs to begin with. But physically, he is more mature than other backs. And I think we all saw that over the weekend. He is physically more prepared and ready to withstand the hits it is going to take being the third back in the room. Think about this. They're going to use 3 backs. Now, he might only get 2 carries a game or 3 carries a game, maybe. Especially early in the season when you're never going to blow these teams out in Akron and Marshall and, the teams that are just cupcakes on your schedule. Teams like Michigan State, Big Ten school, I don't care. You're going to just wax them off the field. Northwestern, okay, better. Did decent things under interim head coach last year. Still wax them off the field. What are you going to find? Hey, there's talent there. They're going to wax some teams, and they're going to be able to go out there and utilize some of these younger backs, James Tebow being one of them. TC Caffey's another one. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be ready to be RB3 because we haven't seen enough of him. The one time he did was a couple years ago when everybody and their mama scored rushing touchdowns for the Ohio State early in that year. Was that the game against Toledo? Maybe DeQuan Finn maybe comes to my mind, but all I know is it was a night game and everybody and their mama was running to the end zone wearing an Ohio State jersey that night. That's all I got to say. But hey, man. I think you can ride with James Peoples as RB3. And I think behind him, you can ride with the walk-on and TC Caffey, who's healthy now, got hurt a year ago. I think you can ride with him and redshirt Sam Williams-Dixon. It's okay. Ain't going to hurt nobody. Just preserve that young man's body for the long road ahead of him as he's an Ohio State Buckeye. One thing I realized over the weekend, I think we all did in some areas, that Ryan Day and Chip Kelly get it. I'll tell you why next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And some of you right now are looking for ways to make some money and put your money where your mouth is. Well, there is an Ohio State Buckeye that's currently has the 4th best odds to win the Heisman Trophy in 2024. It's not Travion Henderson. It's not Jeremiah Smith. It's not Emeka Egbuka. It is the Kansas State transfer, Will Howard. He currently has the 4th best odds, betting us via our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook, to win the Heisman Trophy at plus 1,300. Top 5 Nico, I can't say his last name, for Tennessee. Will Howard's at 4. Dylan Gabriel at 3. Carson Beck at 2. And Quinn Ewers, former Ohio State Buckeye, is at 4. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This episode is also brought to you by Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus has the best selection of pool tables, game tables, shuffleboard tables, and more. And the best service in Central Ohio. And guys, check this out. Billiards Plus carries grills that have up to 30-year warranties. That's right, a grill with a 30-year warranty. Everything you need for in-home and backyard entertainment is at Billiards Plus. Billiards Plus carries the best pool tables from Brunswick, Alhassan, Canada, Billiards, and more. And the grills, whether you like charcoal or gas or wood-fired, Billiards Plus has a perfect setup for all grillers. No matter the season, Billiards Plus has you covered for all your indoor and outdoor entertainment needs. Kenny, Sarah, and the whole staff will always go above and beyond to give you the best customer service in the industry. Billiards Plus, visit their showroom on Dublin Center Drive in Dublin. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. One thing that I am trying to do as we prepare, my wife and I, for our son, our first child, to come into this world is trying to prepare and watch some videos and read some stuff on the internet and talk to people that are parents to get a better grasp on things that might be happening early on. Now, with the youngster coming in, everything everybody tells me is things are unexpected. You don't know what's going to happen. It's my first kid. This is our first kid. My wife doesn't have any kids prior to us getting together. So this is a whole new experience for all of us. So I am trying to get a better handle on grasping and getting certain concepts in parenting, even though I'm not a parent yet. And as you try to grasp certain concepts, you get some of them. Some of them you will a little bit be a work in progress, which isn't a problem. But one thing I have seen from Ryan Day and Chip Kelly over the weekend, they may not understand everything about coaching, and they still may need help. As Ryan Day recently made a series of phone calls, and one of them was to Jim Tressel, which helped lead him to how the Buckeyes got the secondary coaching situation settled in the offseason. But they definitely got this factor. Chip Kelly going out there in a T formation and a tribute to Woody Hayes, and they saying, hey, that's gonna be a part of our short yardage package. Great. Understanding Buckeye tradition is a big part of being a Buckeye coach. Also, Ryan Day. And I've only been, I think this was my third spring game that I've been to. I don't remember Ohio State playing this many quarterbacks specifically. All 5 scholarship quarterbacks got on the field, threw the ball around. Mason Matt, no, Chad. Let me get it correct. I know Mason Max played. I know that he had a couple carries in the game. Chad Ray was a walk-on quarterback that threw 2 times, completed 1 pass for 11 yards. But then you had Mason Max, who is a walk-on quarterback who got 2 carries for 10 yards in the game. And I went back and watched the TV copy after I got home, actually a little before recording this show. And Urban Meyer on that play said, I think that's Will Howard that just handed the ball off to. And they said, oh, no, Joel Klatt was on the field right behind the offense. He said, no, that's walk-on quarterback Mason Mags. One, kudos for Joe for doing your homework, sir. I know you're always doing your broadcast in the games, but also, hey, congratulations for doing your homework. But also, Ryan Day didn't have to play everybody. He understood the assignment, though. He understood that for a lot of these guys, this is the only time, maybe the last time for some of them, or maybe the first time that they'll be able to play inside the chute in front of Ohio State fans. When was the last time you saw a walk-on quarterback? Excuse me, let's dial that back a little bit. When was the last time you saw every scholarship quarterback play for the Buckeyes in one game? Just think about that. Every scholarship quarterback. It rarely, I don't know if it's ever happened since it's in my mind, but it's rarely happened if it has. Then you got walk-on guys that, what do they do generally? Play calling, getting stuff in, like trying to be an extension of the offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach to make sure things go smoothly for the offense while the offense is on the field. And there's nothing wrong with that. I got no issues with it. But one thing we do know is this. Ryan Day playing everybody. And even at one point, Brendan Schramm, I think it's Brendan Strom, honestly. Walk-on wide receiver, had 3 catches for 31 receiving yards. I heard one Ohio State reporter, not saying names, he said it on his show. You can go check it out if you want to. He even said, hey, I didn't know who this guy was before today. Now, I remember the number, and I know I've heard the name, but if you said, hey, is there a Brendan Strom on Ohio State's football team? I probably would have said no, even though I know the name. Just the name is not one of those guys that I think is on the forefront. Like TC Coffee, see them play. Know he can do some good things. Great, cool. That's one thing there. There's a lot of guys that got out there. I think the guy that got the interception, the last play of the game, pick 6, I think he was a walk-on. So Ryan Day's realizing some things right now. One, this is a great opportunity for everybody right now. For Will Howard, Aaron Nolan, don't matter the quarterback, don't matter the player. This is a great opportunity for everybody right now, and we need to capitalize it. For Chip Kelly to already, 1, pull that out. 2, tell everybody already right now, this is going to be part of our short yardage package. And in the T formation, it's 2 tight ends. Really, I don't know if you want to call Patrick Gurd a fullback on that play to make it 32 personnel, but it's more basically 32 personnel. You got 1 fullback who's in a regular fullback position as far as alignment, but he's in a 2-point stance, not a 3-point stance. On right side and left side of him, it is 1 running back or another. You can also put receivers back there. Brandon Ennis, another one who was injured in this, and it wouldn't shock me if at some point in time you had G. Scott Jr., you got Jelani Thurman, who were the 2 guys on the field for the T formation, which also was the first play of the game. So many people that were thinking Will Kazmarek is going to be the starting tight end, he may have been jumped by Jelani Thurman, who was a really good football player. But you got G. Scott Jr., you got Jelani Thurman. Okay, great. Those are your tight ends. You got Patrick Gurd, Quinshon Judkins, and Travion Henderson. That's an opposing defense's nightmare. Extreme nightmare. And I can't wait to see more of this, but Chip Kelly didn't have to do that. Didn't have to show anything right now, but one saying, hey, first play, tribute to the great Woody Hayes. Okay, cool. The man who the athletic facility is named after at the Buckeyes play in, practicing, great. You're understating some things about being a Buckeye. But also, for Ryan Day right now to make this move, my wife even made a comment about Ryan Day. When we were there at the game, he was talking to Joe Cloud before the game, but even when we got home, talking about and saying, well, Ryan Day looks a lot better than he did at the end of last season. And I mean, he was stressed out to the max. The season did not go the way that we thought it was going to go. This is even before the Cotton Bowl, before the Michigan game. So later in the season, of course, this is every year. But he wasn't getting no sleep. He just looked exhausted. It looked like a completely different person. And honestly, right now, you can tell he's sleeping. You can tell that he's taking care of himself physically and hopefully mentally and emotionally in all those ways. Can't really dive into all that stuff, but physically he looks like he's ready to go and prepared. But he does get it, man. Let these boys in a practice. This is not an actual scrimmage to where points is going to be an exhibition where you're really testing yourself against somebody else. No, you're testing yourself against yourself. Let everybody play. They will play in a regular practice. This is what this is. Let them boys play. That's exactly what Ryan Day did, y'all. Happy to be back here on a Monday. I have been dealing with the sinuses acting up. And then we got home from the spring game, and my knee started acting up. And I'm like, man, what is this? Hopefully it's just a spring, little bumps that I'm about to get over, little obstacle, and then get back and keep going better than ever. Speaking of better than ever, got a lot of good stuff coming your way. You can only find right here on Locked On Buckeyes this week. Y'all don't want to miss it. Y'all can follow me on X at jstevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Out of here on a Monday, Buckeye fans. We'll see you next time.